Well, hello everyone, and welcome back for some more game dev for the first time in a quite a long time. That's what I'm trying to say. After a quite a long break, we are finally back. Let's get the starting soon graphic out of the way. I'm hoping you can hear me all right. I'm hoping I have set all of my audio settings and everything back the way they should be when streaming, after doing a little bit of video editing. Hello Cactus and Caesar, welcome. Yeah, occasionally I sort of mess up my audio settings, because when I it's fiddling with my audio interface here. When I do video recordings, I want to split like the speech, the voiceover, and the computer audio and everything onto like different tracks, and then when I stream, I just want it all to go onto the same track. So once or twice I've done sort of started streaming, and then after a while I realized that no one can hear me talk. They can just hear the computer audio. That's a little stupid. So let's hope everything is all right. If you can hear me, do let me know in the chat. If you can't hear me, then well, you couldn't hear me say that, so I guess we're in a little bit of a pickle here. Anyway, we are back after exactly 1 month of no streams. That's just completely incidental. It's not something I was actually aiming for. But that's just how it happened to go. I can hear you. Thanks Caesar. Thank you for the report. Do let me know later on if that changes. If that changes and you suddenly can't hear me. Hopefully you can hear the rest of the audio as well. Right, so I have a free evening tonight, and I figured I'm just gonna stream a little bit. I've not done this in a while. So, if you're new here, first of all, I've gained quite a few new subscribers over the past few days. Mostly probably due to the video that I put out about NVRH on WebGPU. And if you're new here, this is the game that I'm making, called Traction Point. And Traction Point is sort of in a pre-alpha state currently. If you join the Discord server, you can already play pre-alpha version 1 and 2. They're kind of old at this point, so you probably actually don't want to play them. You're going to want to wait until the next version, which will be the first Steam playtest, is going live. But if you're just so excited you can't wait for that, then by all means go have a look on the Discord server. You can find the pre-alpha version 1 and 2, and you should definitely go with version 2. And you get to play a single mission from the game. So, sort of one of the main sort of goals for me with this game for this year is to get a good playtest build out for you guys. And I won't actually probably put out like a whole lot more of the campaign, but I want to actually give you guys a very good sandbox mode to play around with. And I'm also aiming to have a very solid sort of like modding support thing going with that, which we're gonna look at today a little bit. I'm gonna have to make sure that my one and only so far test mod actually compiles and works in the game. I think it's actually even loaded, so it should work now, but we're gonna have to try something out a little bit later. Anyway, sandbox mode. The sandbox mode is kind of bare bones currently because it looks like this. This is the sandbox menu. So you can play the campaign. The menu actually looks a little different these days. This is not what it looks like in the pre-alpha versions that you can actually play. But we have a basic sort of save slot menu here now, and in the pre-alpha version you will just be able to play one single mission, so it will probably just take you into that. But the sandbox menu item here in the main menu, this is a new one. This hasn't been here for very long, and as you can see, it doesn't really do anything. So I'm thinking like the main goal for tonight is probably going to be to actually add the very basic functionality to not necessarily implement this menu, because like I don't exactly know what that's gonna look like, and it might not be super exciting to watch someone do like UI. At least we're gonna make it so that you can actually like, you know, add another button here that says start game, and then we're just gonna load into some hard-coded sandbox level, right? We actually started making sandbox content ages ago. So there's this map sandbox bin level here. This is sort of like my debug menu for just loading into a level. Like you can, for example, just load into the demo level here. This is the level that you can actually play if you play the pre-alpha. But here we're just like loading into it without any sort of mission content. This is just sort of like a, you know, I kind of treat this as you know, like opening a Word document in Word. The level is sort of like the document, and you can just open them up and see what's in them, and then close them down. And so you can open up every level in sort of just like a straight up load this level for me mode. And the game just has like a you know, like a default card that it gives you so that you can actually like move around the level. But there's no mission content going on here. There's no scripting or anything. Just like the level thing. And so basically you can sort of play sandbox levels already, because you can just select the level from here and go like, okay, right, I want map sandbox. And you get loaded into this weird looking thing, which we created at during a previous stream actually. I think this is the level that we're gonna use today when we hook it up to that menu there. But we're not gonna load into this thing just, you know, as is. I'm actually gonna add a new game mode to the game tonight. That's my plan. Now, I kind of already started doing it this morning, but I haven't used it for anything yet. So we're gonna use it tonight, or today, or whatever it is where you are, whatever it is in the world where you are. It is kind of early evening for me here in Finland. So in the sandbox mode, there's probably going to be like a few different things that you kind of like you essentially only get when you are playing a sandbox, when you're playing in the sandbox mode. So for example, at least I'm hoping to have some sort of almost like Halo Forge like you know, functionality here for just like adding new objects into the world. Obviously there's the level editor, but there should be some kind of simpler version of that for just like adding things into the world as well. And those things will be activated by loading into a level in sandbox mode. If I remember correctly, if we put power cells in all of these slots here, I could lift them there with the vehicle, but I can also just debug spawn them like so. That thing will start spawning, and this will actually just, you know, spawn infinite objects now for us. So eventually the game will crash. Like I think it runs for like, you know, a whole day or something, but eventually it will crash if you don't take those out. Because it will just keep spawning. And way before the game crashes, we're gonna get some really funky like physics and stuff happening, because we're spawning hundreds of thousands of objects basically. But anyway, that's kind of what I was thinking for tonight. And maybe we'll find something else fun to do while we're at it. But like I sort of alluded to a little bit earlier, I'm also going to make sure my my test mod works. Let's actually go to launch. And yeah, we're gonna do like depot, maybe something like this. So now if we run the game, it will boot directly into a level in this sort of like, you know, nothing mode. So I already have a single example mod made. We can look at it here in the mod manager. Oh, the mod manager. Oh, there it is. Yes, we can access the mod manager from in-game. So Flying Scout. This is an example mod that I made just to test out the system. You can see that it is loaded. It is a WebAssembly module. So it's not actually native code. It's a WebAssembly module. And WebAssembly modules are, like, at least in theory, they are safer to run than native code. And that is why I actually have mods, or have WebAssembly support for mods. And yeah, this car can fly. That's kind of like the whole point of it. Or it can sort of hover, and if you just, you know, gather enough speed, then you essentially like fly like this. That's a pretty fun little thing. Still lacks sounds. I'm gonna have to do a little bit of work on my sound system to actually enable like sounds in mods. And that may be like another live stream or two to make that happen. And then we can have some sounds for this. But this is the mod, and I want to make sure that we can actually build it. So let's go have a look at the thing. And I actually have it already here open, yeah, because I opened it earlier today. So, like in theory, you can write your mods in any language, but my SDK is in Zig, and so you will probably be writing your mods in Zig as well, right? So the code for the actual mod is not very large. We have a single component, Scout Jetpack component, and here's the code for that. And this is sort of like the meat of the mod. This needs a little bit of cleaning up. There's some commented out stuff here and some repetition before I actually give this to you. This mod will be open sourced when the mod support comes online. And you can actually already, if you go to the Discord server and you want to play pre-alpha 2, you can actually already download this mod and install it and play it. There's instructions on the Discord if you want to try it out. But I haven't released the code yet because it's sort of in flux a little bit. So, because we're using Zig, we can just build directly into WASM. It's super easy. And by default, it actually builds build as WASM is set to true. If you set that to false, it builds it as a DLL instead. So that would be a native code, which you can do. You can build a mod as DLL, but then the user needs to actually like allow native code mods to be able to actually load it. But yeah, the build script looks pretty good. Let's I'm in some wrong. Let's see, open an integrated terminal like here, and then we do Zig build, and it should build. And then we're gonna test something out, something I added earlier today, which I haven't tested. This is completely unrehearsed stuff. Like every live stream that I do, and my my longtime viewers can attest that sometimes things just spectacularly break. So if we go to where is it? It's here. Reveal in File Explorer. You can see that the output directory here is set to the build folder, so it should go in here. There's the WASM module that we just built. This is essentially like the mod. You need to put these into a folder, and then the game can load it. So there's the WASM folder, the WASM module. There's a BP4 file, which is a pack file. It essentially contains like the mesh for that jetpack and things like that. And then there's a mod.json file, which just looks like this. It's a very simple little thing that can show you some information about the mod in the UI. And so, okay, the WASM module built. That's nice. That's the first thing that we want to try. Then we want to make sure that we can build it as a native. So let's get rid of the Zig cache. Just to be sure. Oh. Okay, it's open somewhere. I think it might actually be held by the CLS, so let's not delete it. Just make a fresh build. So we should get a DLL file here instead. There we go. DLL, and we even get debug symbols for that, so we should be able to debug it even. But yeah, I'm not gonna use that right now. Let's go back to WASM. So one new thing that I did today was make it so that mods can. Let me actually put down the music volume a little bit. Something like that, maybe. Right. So WebAssembly modules can't access. They can't read or write to memory. That's not like held by that WASM module. It doesn't belong to that WASM module. That's kind of like the idea of a sandboxed environment. And so the mod can't read a whole bunch of, well, it can't essentially like access any memory of the main game. That's not like explicitly made available to it. And so what I did earlier today was there's something called means_lib. So means, which we can't actually find here because that's the main game. Means is like the code name for the actual game. So here, when we go back to the actual game's code, you can see here's means, and then we have basis, trampoline, goofy, tambour, nemo. These are all like different libraries that I use. Basis is the game engine itself. So this is a pretty large thing. But yeah, we have means, which has quite a lot of code. If we go in here and have a look, we can see that there's quite a lot of Zig stuff in here. This is the game itself. Then there's means_lib, means library, which is here, which is a relatively new thing. So it's not something that has existed for very, very long. But basically what I've done is like I've taken parts of the game code and moved them out into this kind of like library so that mods can use it as well, right? And so here we have, we have like the characters of the game, and we have the world locations. Aren't actually that many yet. Actually, we have a few that aren't even added to this enum here. But yeah, things like that. Some constants for the UI, stuff like this. And what I added to means_lib earlier today is a game mode type enum, right? So I mentioned the fact that we're gonna start working on this sandbox game mode today. So we have none, which is just like, hey, open up a level. There's no game mode essentially active. You can drive around if you want to. All the physics work and everything. And if you have like some script that's part of the level itself, then that will That will also work and run, but nothing else. Then we have the campaign, and then we have, as a new one, we have this sandbox thing. So this entire enum is new because previously we just had like a boolean everywhere which said like, is campaign active, yes or false, or yes or no, true or false. So we have a new enum. If we ask the game, hey, what is my current game type, then the game runs some logic to determine, you know, which one of this it is. But because the mod is a WASM module, we can't actually run that code from the mod, right? As we just discussed, a WASM module can't actually access memory outside of its own dedicated memory. So I've added a mechanism to do sort of access certain things, you know, expose more stuff from the game to mods. And one of those things is this get game mode function here. There's also one by context. This basically has to do with like, are you on the client or on the server? Because the game engine is a client-server based system. You need to tell it which one you are on, and it gives you the game mode. So we should try this out on the mod to make sure it actually works. If any of you have done any sort of like embedding of WASM modules into native programs, you know that like things like this need to be exposed explicitly so that the WASM runtime doesn't go like access denied, you're trying to access memory outside of the module, right? So just make something very, very simple. Let's do like, when an object is created, we're gonna print whether or not the campaign is active, right? I'm getting tangled here in my headphone cables. So we can spawn a scout jetpack or a flying scout which has a scout jetpack component from the debug menus. So in on object created, if we're not in the editor, we're just gonna do let's see, do we use meanslib? Yes, we have meanslib imported here. So we can do game mode is meanslib.gameplay types dot get game mode by context, and then we just give it the context, and then it complains that we're not using it for anything. So let's print this. Let's do print. Actually, we can print it to the game window itself. So we do debug overlay, debug trace, game mode is, and then a string, right? And then here in the arguments, we're gonna want to get the name out of the enum. We can get the short name by using tag name and game mode, like so. And that should be it. So now if we build this thing, it should build, but it's not building it in the correct place. Yeah, it did build. It's not building it in the correct place. I just have like a commented out version. This is the actual folder that the mods need to go in, right? So we have the app data roaming. Trampoline is like a temporary name. That's just the launcher for Zig games. This would be something like Traction Point, and then it's mods, and then there's a folder for the Flying Scout, something like that. So now if we build this again, it should build pretty fast. It just needs to recompile the build script, and then it should basically be good to go. There we go. So let's see if this works. So if we go back to the actual game. Oh, that's not the one I wanted. Sorry about that. The correct one is here. Yeah, means that's what it's called, this workspace. So if we go back to the game, we should see the text here in the lower right corner. So if now we spawn a flying scout, okay. Fail to call unlinked import function. Mainly call U64. So if we look at this, we can see okay. Right, so basically what we're doing is we're creating the function. We can see here on object created. The Zig Whammer. So Whammer is the WebAssembly micro runtime library on object created. So that suggests that it is calling. This is the on object created function, and something is not being hooked up correctly here. Let's see. Let's get game mode by context, and this calls into this guy, which calls into this guy. Yeah, and that would suggest that this thing is not being fail to call unlinked import function. Yeah, call U64. Okay, why is that being on? Why is that not linked? It should be linked. Let's make sure we have this thing built, which we do. Okay. Yeah. Well, I just told you that it's completely unrehearsed, and I meant it. Let's do one fun little test here. We go to Flying Scout and we go to Build, and we set that to false, right? And then we go into that's probably fine. Go into App Data. Come on. Come on, Windows, please, thank you. So here we are. Trampoline is the name of the. You can see some screenshots that I've taken here. Here's the mods folder, Flying Scout. We just delete that WASM module from there. Now that we have this set to false, I can do Zig build, and we should get a DLL here instead. And then we just need to make sure that. Yeah, we set that to true, allow on sandboxed mods. So Flying Scout is enabled and we allow on sandboxed mods. So now if we run the game, we should still have that mod with us, but it's not using the WebAssembly interface, just loading it as a standard DLL. We should even be able to see it here somewhere. Right. Yeah, there we go. Flying Scout DLL has been loaded. And if we go have a look at the mod manager, we can see that it's loaded, and it is a native unsandboxed mod. Okay, so now if we run this guy, Flying Scout, there is some breakpoint there. Okay, so now we get game mode is none. Okay, cool. That's what we wanted. Now if we actually launch the campaign, and I'll just spawn one here. Boom. Now we get game mode is campaign. We get it twice because we get it once per host. So once on the client, once on the server. Okay, so that works. Excellent. Now we know that it's not actually like a logic error in the actual sort of interface. It's for some reason that WebAssembly call is not getting set up correctly. So set that back, something like that. Build that again, and then we'll get rid of the DLL instead. And the PDB. Yep. And I think this issue is actually probably on the C++ level. But we'll see. So once again, mod manager. The mod is WASM mod. And if we spawn it, WASM function call error, failed to call unlinked import function. Okay. Oh. Yeah. I wonder if this is because... like the thing that it actually calls, if we go and have a look here at this thing. Get game mode by context. That's calling trampoline bindings API mainlib call U64. As I said, trampoline is the launcher. It's sort of like the Unity launcher, you know, where like if you're shipping a Unity game, the exe for your Unity game is not actually compiled by you. It's just like, you know, extracted somewhere where Unity keeps it. And then the actual game, the thing that you have created, and that is in some DLL somewhere. And this is sort of like the same thing. Trampoline is the exe, which, you know, by the build script that publishes to Steam, just renames it Traction Point. And the game is actually a DLL. So it's using the trampoline Zig interop. And here we can see that we are registering the function, mainly call U64 WASM. And that guy goes in here, which calls that one. There's a little bit of indirection here, but that's just because like we can bind these things in both in native mode and in WASM mode. You can see this is called _WASM, and it has this WASM exec nft parameter here, which isn't actually used for anything. It's here just because the WebAssembly micro runtime sort of expects that to be there. And then it calls the regular one, right? And this guy is called, and it is actually hooked up only if we are not in a mod library. But that's completely fine, because this is, first of all, this is native code, so the native side wouldn't have worked if this wasn't okay. So that's completely fine. The thing that should work, but for some reason doesn't work, is this guy. Hey Tutu, welcome back. Or Decker, or whatever your name is. Let's see, that's called call U64 WASM. Is that the actual name that it was complaining about, though? Or was it just... I don't remember anymore. Let's see. Let's see, said the blind man. Oh, right. Look at this. It's expecting that to be the name. Main lib call U64. But that is not the name that we are exposing it as. We are exposing it as mainlib U64 _ WASM. So that's my oopsie. I made an oopsie. Let's have a look here. How am I doing it for the other things? Yeah, I'm exposing it with a WASM postfix. That's what I thought. So I'm probably just missing that postfix there on the Zig side. Let's have a quick look, and it would be in trampoline WASM extern functions. Here we go. So here is the problem. WASM. Hello, long time no see. Indeed. Yeah, I haven't really streamed for a while. It's not for like lack of wanting or anything. I've just been absolutely swamped with work. Everything from like getting the Steam page for the game working and everything. It's just been an absolutely crazy month. But yeah, finally sort of slowing down a little bit. I'll have time for some actual game dev, which is of course is the fun thing here. So we need to build both the game and the mod, right? And now if we run it. Now if we run it, look at that. Look at that. Let's make sure we're still in WASM mode. Yeah, WASM. WASM. Cool. So, you know, this might not have been super obvious what we actually did here, but basically, I have or I should say, I have a beginning. I have the beginning of a system that allows me to just like expose things from the main game assembly or DLL binary and have it usable by mods, even though those mods are WASM mods. Let's see, I saw a NVRHI video. Oh, sure. Yeah, if you have any questions about that or comments or anything, feel free to ask here. This is an excellent place to ask. I saw your NVRHI video and asked there, do you have any plans for shaders? Like NVRHI. Shaders. Yeah, sorry if I missed your question. There's just been like crazy amount of them. So what's your question? What's my plan for shaders? I mean, I'm using shaders, and I'm using shaders with NVRHI. So what is your question exactly? Not sure I understand. It's taken actually quite a bit of time to make my shaders work with NVRHI. I mean, I kind of maybe made it sound like it was just like a cakewalk to get NVRHI working. That wasn't really the case, especially with D3D12. It was actually quite a bit of work. Well, it was quite a bit of work anyway, because I ripped out my own RHI, so I think I touched probably like a couple hundred different files or something. Hey Jake. Hey Jake. Right, okay. Okay, now I see. You guys are asking kind of like the same question here. Cool. I'll show you. I'll show you. I'm gonna go get a glass of water, and then I'll show you. 1 second. Alright. I assure you I'm no Giga Chad. Yeah, you don't need to be intimidated. This is... I'll show you my crappy system. Is the full version of that, of that sentence. Let's see. Let's go to NVRHI's web page here. Hey Matt, welcome back. It's been a while. So tutorial, I think this actually shows you a little bit of, because like there's like a few questions here. I feel that one question is like how does NVRHI deal with this, and the other one is like how do I deal with it, right? So maybe it was actually in the programming guide, but yeah, okay. So the rest of the rendering code is typically GAPI independent. Yeah, they're talking about like setting up the whole pipeline here, except for different shader formats. So basically, what you fill in for NVRHI is just a byte array of whatever the backend expects from you, right? It really doesn't hold your hand at all in that sense. You need to be certain that you're feeding it whatever the backend expects, depending on what backend you have, right? And so, you know, if you were to write, let's say, a metal backend for NVRHI, which was covered in the video as well, that's something that someone might want to do, then you know, you would just be consuming the bytecode that you have passed to this create shader function here. That is basically how easy it is. NVRHI does have some sort of, if I can remember what it is called, something with like shader preprocessor or shader. Let's see. Oh yeah, this is something that I found the other day. Vulkan binding offsets. If you know YouTube channel and or person called the Cherno, who's quite popular these days, he also switched to using NVRHI, and he had apparently some issues with these things because evidently hadn't read the programming guide very well. I haven't really run into this because I'm not using Vulkan currently. But there's some, like, NVRHI prefers you to offset your different kinds of Vulkan bindings, so that you have, you know, all of your shader resources come first, and then, you know, starting at, you know, binding index 128, you start binding samplers, and 256 you start binding, you know, buffers, and I don't exactly remember what it was. But that's one thing to keep in mind. Like if you're gonna want to actually use shaders for all of the different backends, then, you know, keep that thing in mind. I need to keep this thing in mind. I haven't done Vulkan yet, so. But yeah, I don't actually remember it now. But I think if we just Google it, I'm just trying to give you like the official version of this first, and then I'll show you what what I did. Because my shader format actually hasn't really changed since I switched to NVRHI. I'm stubborn like that. Yeah, here we go. So maybe it's actually not that. Maybe it's not actually that. I do remember there being some sort of like optional helper thingy for you know, managing different kinds of shaders. But I don't know. I don't know. All your shaders were HLS alright. Right, since it was all DX11 before. Yeah, sort of. They're a slightly special version of HLSL. I read somewhere something like that somewhere. Maybe Reddit. SPIR-V does not behave well with Vulkan, but I have no experience. Well, SPIR-V is kind of like the only thing you can give to Vulkan, as far as I know. So I'm kind of expecting it to, you know, behave at least somewhat well. Anyway, I'll show you what I did. So yeah, my shaders are a little special in the sense that, I mean, this is not, it's not something particularly weird. This is what a lot of game engines do. If we have a material, vehicle windshield, whatever, so anything goes. We can look at the shader code here. This is what the material editor will spit out. So materials are authored using a node graph that looks something like this, and it spits out a piece of shader code, which is almost a normal. Almost normal HLSL. Actually, I don't think this thing uses a single texture. Let's have something that has like a texture on it. So base material diffuse. This one has a texture. Yeah. So I have something like an auto bind directive, and I have a few of these directives. Basically, this means that, like, okay, we have a texture called this. And I want my shader compiler to generate a binding for it, right? We don't know exactly at this point what that binding is going to be, but we want it to do it for us automatically. And I have a few other directives like this. This is not standard HLSL. So if we build this, if we just go here and do export, it's going to take a little while for it to run through all the different versions of it. We can see what it did here is actually yeah, so it's compiling HLSL shaders, it's compiling DXIL shaders. This should actually be called DXBC, right? This is like the D3D11 format. Yeah, so DXBC shaders. Then it's compiling DXIL shaders, that's the D3D12 format. And then it's compiling SPIR-V shaders. And we can see that it's actually like writing into some temporary files, things like that. So it does it for all three formats that I support currently. And if we go have a look here and in the temp folder, what actually happened to that auto bind stuff? So let's go to temp, and we can see here, oh, we have a bunch of things. This is a folder that the converter can use to just write temporary things to. So we have a pre-processed HLSL file. This is significantly larger than what we saw there because it's expanding all of the headers and whatnot into this one. So it's almost 1,300 lines. And if we look at the actual texture that we saw, G node graph texture 0, try to find it here. So we can see that this auto bind directive has expanded into a GLSL binding directive, and it ends with an HLSL register, right? So we have that one, and it gets expanded into this. So it puts something before the thing, and then it puts something behind the thing, and then I have a header here up here, which this essentially toggles one of them off, right? So if we're compiling to SPIR-V, but we're not compiling to MSL, this is like an old thing that, like, you know, I used to have a metal backend, just a raw metal backend, that I also compiled my HLSL code into. It could just be, you know, that would essentially do it. So if we are compiling to SPIR-V, then we define the register something to be blank. So the register is the thing that goes, you know, behind the thing. And if we are not compiling SPIR-V, then we define layout to be, you know, nothing. It's like an empty word here behind this, right? So then this thing goes away. So essentially, like if we have a line like that, it becomes, you know, it becomes that when we're binding for spur v, and it becomes that spur v and you know, dxbc slash dxil, right? I mean, conversion to spur v doesn't behave well with Vulkan. Yeah, I have to side with with Tutu here. I don't know what you're talking about, because Vulkan only consumes, you know, spur v. It shouldn't be an issue. But I'm sure you've read something, you know, slightly similar. But like Vulkan without spur v, like really kind of doesn't exist, as far as I know, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not an expert here. That's my belief. Anyway, so this is how we can bind. Like the rest of the code is essentially the same. You can feed HLSL when you've returned or removed or expanded my special directives. You can feed the rest of the code to GL-slang validator, and it will produce completely valid like Vulkan spur v for you. So that's not a problem. So then, okay, what do we actually then do with that code? So the way I load a shader, let's go to the game and let's find a shader that we load somewhere. .bin shader. Do we load any bin shaders? We don't necessarily load a lot of shaders in the game. I need to go to C++ for that. Bin shader. Right. So nav mesh polygon area data. Here we're essentially creating a material on the fly. We have a material description. We fill in some stuff, and we create a material. You can load materials from files, or you can just create them on the fly like this. It's basically the same thing. Hey Brian, welcome to the stream. And the way I load shaders, it just looks like this. You just give it a bin shader, right? And we give it, you know, give that as the resource path. And you can see that like it's the same. I don't have any like if D3 D11 if Vulkan if D3 D12, you know, checks here. That basically comes later. Here I just give it the same bin shader file. And then if we go into, if I can remember the name of it, that's probably shader something. Maybe not. It's probably actually, is it graphics pipeline? It's probably shader resource, isn't it? Shader program resource. There we go. Shader program resource. So let's have a look here. Blah 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 blah. Well, first of all, we ask the renderer if it uses HLSL bindings. D3D11 and 12, they use HLSL bindings. Metal actually also uses HLSL bindings. If you have metal, right? They have a very similar sort of like slot system in metal. Vulkan does not use HLSL bindings, and neither did WebGPU when I had it integrated here. So this is just a boolean, and the way this actually like figures it out is that I think it asks the make dependent of the GAPI. I think it is actually, yeah, it is. So when the render is initialized, we ask the device manager, hey, do you use HLSL bindings? and I think these are just like hard coded to true, right? Device manager D3D11, HLSL, return true. But if I ever were to create a device manager Vulkan, I would return false. That is as simple as it gets. Let's just remove that comment because it is actually, you know, dependent on the back end. So that is that's how you know, determine which kind of binding you're going to want. But you also have something called a shader runtime language type, which is an enum. And here we have a few. I've just commented out my metal and my WGSL here because I don't use those currently. But you can see DXBC, that's D3D11. DXIL, that would be D3D12. And SPIR-V, that's you know, Vulkan essentially. And newer versions of D3D12 might also work with SPIR-V. I'm not exactly sure. Hey Pedro, welcome. Right, so we need to know, hey, which shader runtime language is the thing actually interested in here, and it is handled very much in the same way as the HLSL bindings. We just ask the device manager, hey, what shader runtime language do you actually use? So if we go back here to D3D11, well, this one returns DXBC. And if we go to D3D12, it returns DXIL. Let's see. New video seems to be doing well. It is doing really well. Yeah, on my scale, it is doing really well. With any luck, it may cut down on the confusion some people get when joining Discord. Yeah, that's the reason I made it, right? Some people seem to have gotten the impression that I made it to, you know, to tell everyone how bad WebGPU is. That's not why I made it. I tried to make it clear in the video that that's not what I feel, and that's not what I'm trying to do here, but apparently like not well enough, because some people still think I'm being too harsh on it. But no, I'm just trying to explain after several years now why I'm not actually using it anymore. Right, so now if we go back to the shader program resource, we know that we want the HLSL bindings, and we also know the shader runtime language, which we get here. And out of this bin shader file that we looked at here for example, bin shader, we create one of these shader resources, or it's actually created for us by the resource manager, and it calls this load function on it. And then we know, okay, so we have this description. This is a shader program description, and this guy now has a bunch of slots. So it has a per language data struct, code containers for all the different shader, you know, counts that I have. Shader type, so we have all the normal ones. No mesh shaders yet, or anything like that, or like ray tracing shaders, but all the classical ones. So per language data has a bunch of shader containers, and the shader container has, you know, it has the source file path, it has the entry point, it has the actual source code, and it has the byte code. And this is how I can then represent, you know, different runtime formats using just a single file. I just, you know, the game or the engine tells the renderer, hey, use this shader with the name mesh vertex color unlit, and then here in the shader program resource we select the correct per language data, PLD. Per language data was this struct we just looked at. The per language data then has a shader container for each of the different stages. Not all of them are necessarily enabled. And then we get stuff out of it. And here we can do Right, so actually, yeah, it runs through one more layer of sort of indirection. So I have an NVRHI utils namespace here. A create shader actually just goes through and gets, you know, the bytecode length, and then this is the actual NVRHI device. So we create the shader from that. And yeah, at this point it has actually like reached the NVRHI device, and I don't really need to worry about it anymore. People get sensitive about their APIs. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no joke. WGSL is kind of bad though. Yeah. I don't have any qualms saying that. I feel it's kind of bad, and I feel it's kind of stupid that we need it in the first place. And yeah, several people have after the video told me one way or another that it's because of Apple. I know it's because of Apple. I even said it in the video that it's because of Apple. And I know it's because of some sort of lawsuit with Kronos or something. The thing is that we don't really know the details though, so I don't really want to go out and say that on like a video that will potentially reach quite a few people, because I don't know what happened there, but it's annoying. From like an engineering perspective, it's annoying that we're stuck with WGSL. Right, so I hope this sort of roundabout explanation kind of filled in any blanks for how you can do this sort of stuff. Basically, I just compile it several times. I put those results into the same binary shader file, and then, you know, I separate them at load time again to use different you know, runtime formats for different backends. And this is just like the core of it. There's some additional stuff around this whole thing where you can like I don't know if I actually have it exposed to the I think I don't actually have it exposed to the UI here, but you can do like, you can enable flags for like certain formats, like every once in a while, maybe like once every 6 months or something. I have like one material that, like, because I'm compiling this several times, right? If I build this, it might compile for the HLSL, it might compile for the DXIL, but then it might fail for the SPIR-V header, shaders. So, what do we do if that happens? Is the shader still valid? Well, in its current shape or state, the game won't ever use SPIR-V. But I kind of don't want that to I don't want to live with a bunch of shaders that, I one day might need and they don't work. So I at least want to keep the shaders building to SPIR-V, because I've kept them building so far. So it's not like a huge amount of work to keep building all the shaders in SPIR-V. For the final game, if I don't end up having a Vulkan backend or any use for them, I can just strip out the data before I actually package it up for Steam. Because SPIR-V is said to be kind of large. But anyway, if the SPIR-V shader fails to compile, sometimes you can get around certain issues by like disabling like optimization for just that shader or something like that. So there's a whole bunch of like things around this system, and it basically like just gives it as input parameters to the shader compiler. Anyway, I hope that covers everything you wanted to know about the shaders. If not, let me know and I'll try my best to cover it even better. So, Should we go back to a little bit of gameplay? How about a little bit of gameplay? Yeah. Stuff happening on the Discord. Brian asks, are you self-taught in game engine and rendering programming, or do you have industry experience? Sort of both, I guess. Right? I have industry experience, yeah. I worked for... What is it? 16 years? Or something in the industry. I worked on everything from like small iPhone games with like four people on a team to AAA stuff with 300 people on the team. Always in a programmer position. So, you know, the fact that I'm now making a game and I'm, you know, designing levels and making sound effects and freaking modeling vehicles, that stuff is all self-taught. But yeah, I'm working sort of part-time these days, trying to actually make this game. It's not super easy, especially when you get into the, like, you know, trying to get a Steam page looking all nice and attractive, like the poor engine programmer. What is he to do? Okay. So we got that mod business sorted out. It was a good thing. I had mistakenly misbound that one function there. So let's set up a small goal for us here, and then like see how far we get. So we go into sandbox menu. Sandbox menu looks like this. There's nothing here except the back button and the text. And I think the minimum thing I wanna do is just add another button, and then add another button that says, you know, start game or whatever. The UI isn't really important here. The important thing is that we want to start the game in a new game mode. And in Traction Point, game mode is essentially determined by a specific object called the Game Master, which I had a little bit of a look at just before the stream. That's why we have this blueprint open here already. And yeah, a Game Master is essentially like, it's an object that, like, at some point in time used to be like a place that I just put like a whole bunch of different things. Nowadays it's not really used for like a whole lot, but it's still in my in my book it's kind of like the thing that determines the game mode. So we have two currently. You have a Game Master base. We can see it has a bunch of components: client end game logic, server end game logic. So the Game Master, you know, this game engine used to be used for a bunch of multiplayer sort of prototypes and things like that back in the day. And especially at that time, like the end game logic was like it's kind of like how Unreal defined its game modes. You know, if you have like an arena-based shooter or something like that, you know, when the game ends, and who wins the round, that is determined by the game mode. So yeah, these endgame logics are kind of just like, you know, something in a script or something set, or you pressing the return to menu button in the pause menu that just tells the end game logic. Hey, let's end the thing. But still, they are here. Then we have some helper things here. Collision FX Manager component. I don't even remember what these do. Server to client message component can kind of like be, I guess. Certain messages need to be reacted on the client while being sent on the server. This component simply intercepts those messages and resends them on the client instead. Kind of a hack, but meh. Said me some time ago. But then we have the actual, so that's the base, like Game Master base. And then we have the default Game Master, which is the one that, you know, if you don't currently load into the campaign, you just load a level and start driving around in it, you get this default Game Master. And its base type is the Game Master base. And then we have the campaign Game Master. And I think the campaign Game Master is actually kind of small. Yeah, like it doesn't do like a whole lot. It spawns the player avatar. It broadcasts a message. This is a very important message, but still it's just one message. You have a bunch of different components that actually listen to this game started message. So when the game has started on the server, we have some commented out crap here. But yeah, it spawns that or broadcasts that message. The rest of this is just, you know, boilerplate, and we could probably clean it up. But we'll create a new sandbox Game Master component, and like I mentioned previously in the stream, my point is that, or my kind of like vague design for the sandbox mode is a little maybe reminiscent of something like Forge in Halo, where like if you're playing a sandbox game, then you get a few extra sort of tools that you can use to place things directly into the level, because sandbox is just there to you know have fun with. So all of that will most likely be kind of like enabled and activated through this this Game Master, one way or another. Strong silhouette on the vehicles in particular. Yeah. I can show you something. Let's see if I can find it. Can I find it? Can I find it? I was you know, I was planning to go. I've had this art style in mind for a while, with this sort of topography thing, and like a dark background, and then this logo here. And I was trying out different you know, capsule images for Steam. So you can see a few of my sort of concepts for that. I still think it looks pretty alright, this thing in as a silhouette, but like I don't think this really works. Not sure this really works. I did, however, draw this, and I'll probably use it like as a sped up version of that, as like the background of some video or something. And I also like, in particular, I like the side view of that. I don't have it here currently. Where is it? Oh. Hey, look, my favorite window is back. Hello. The mystery window. Oh, now it's gone. It's gone like the wind. Like tears in the rain. And all of that. Let's see. Means... It's probably this one, right? Oh, mother outline. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, here's mother from the side. I think this actually looks kind of nice. It's kind of neat. This is all vector graphics as well. You can see my hand, my strokes. Burp. Oh yeah, I think this looks kind of neat. I want to use this for something. I'm not sure what yet. But yeah, we'll see in what is it on the 30th or whatever, if this program is gonna get utterly destroyed by the subscription thingy. Remains to be seen. Okay. Let's go. Let's go back, and I'm gonna shut this down because that's the scout. So first of all, let's add that button there. So here we have this maybe looks slightly similar to what we have had previously, but this is a completely different window. This is the oh. What? What? Oh, I didn't know. Look at this. Visual Studio Code apparently reads SVG files. That's interesting. That's fun. Yeah, here we have the HUD. There's the gauge, the marks, handbrakes. Wow, I never knew VS Code actually reads SVG files. Makes sense, I guess. Some sense. Yeah, here's the background for the dialogue. Yeah, dialogue. Cool. Man, I'm getting so distracted today by everything, but it's all fun. It's all fun and games. So, sandbox mode, as we saw, it is basically just, well, it's menu background wide. We had it here. It's this guy. Oh, I wanna change that launch parameter there. Blah, blah, blah. Let's take that away. There we go. Take it away. So, sandbox. It is the background, which is the menu background wide. It is a label, which is the sandbox menu, and then it's a back button, right? And it is being reflected here in this here script. Sandbox menu, so background, label, and button, and you should just be able to create another button. Let's call this start button. And what's nice about this is that I finally have a pretty good, actually, extension for AngelScript language server. This thing actually works surprisingly well, so you get nice IntelliSense for all of my types and everything. It's pretty neat. Text UI back. Let's see. I probably have text UI start. Yes, I do. So let's just use that. Clearly, the excitement of streaming is getting to. Yeah. In a little while, I'll just be like mumbling incoherently because I'm so excited about this. Start. It's right there. Default focus, probably not. And where do we want to put this guy? Like now, if we alt tab to the thing, you can see that they're on top of each other. That's not good. So let's move this maybe to the right position. Let's do 77. And bloop, there we go. Here's the thing. It looks kind of horrible, to be honest. These things are kind of supposed to go on top of each other, but I don't know. I need to really have a think about what that menu is supposed to look like. I have no idea what it's supposed to be and what kind of stuff we're even supposed to be having here. Let's keep it as it is for now. So like if we go to the right, we go to the start button. So I require users to specify the flow, the focus flow, manually. So if we are on the back button, we go to the right, we go to the start button, and the system sort of we can do the same for left actually. So we have a nice sort of left. We have a nice sort of what am I trying to say? Like looping, or like it loops back on itself. Yeah, the system sort of deals with cases where something is hidden or disabled and things like that, and then sort of skips over it. But yeah, now I can switch between these two with the mouse and the keyboard and the gamepad. So back obviously takes us back here. We go to start, nothing happens. So we need to hook it up to something. And quite often I've used with action. You give it an action name, and then you can hook into that action in one or several places in the code. But I don't think I've done it here because we're not using action here in this back button either. I think I'm just listening for a goofy event. So we can do the same here as well. Sandbox, menu, UI, view, model, back button. Yep. So let's create a start button here. G start button, goofy UI button pointer. And then basically we want that to be start. I want that to be start as well. So setup view. And yeah, if the view is reloaded, that means that you change the script. Like you might have been able to see there earlier, we can actually hot reload those scripts, so you can quickly lay out these menus essentially, or views. And then this thing is called view was reloaded, and then we if we make a syntax error, then this will be false. So we don't try to do anything. It will just tell us what the problem was. But if it is successful, then yeah, we will want to get that button. Yeah, and then here is where we actually then listen to things. So on Goofy event, we get events for all sorts of things. It's a little bit of a backwards way to actually listen to events, but it's kind of nice because like it doesn't require us to set up any actions or anything. We can just keep all the logic here in this one Zig file. So I guess that's why I did it. So I can just do it with a good old else if here. Start button CPP. Maybe actually the start. Nah, let's keep it as it is. It's fine. So print start. Something like that. I don't really want to spend time on UI today. I've spent actually quite a bit of time on the campaign menu UI this week. UI is kind of like not very fun to do. Like this thing here. Like this is a completely custom widget I made for this, which is it's like a separate delete button there on the side, and just like dialogues and everything. Quite proud of it actually, but yeah, it's annoying to build that. So now we can start there in the console, so that's great. Making progress. A little bit of coffee. Right, Tutu is just saying that it reads all kinds of web formats. Yeah, probably. I've just never really, even thought about opening them with VS Code. But it's nice to know, right? Especially when doing something like this, where you have, you know, your menu background wide bin SVG file here, and you can sort of match it to this menu background wide. You can just see it here. Yeah, I kind of like that. And then if you want the actual path to this guy, you can do reveal in File Explorer, basis convert, and then this thing will give it to you. You can click it there, and then you get the bin SVG file. So yeah, good to know. I can just drop a bunch of things into a folder and then access them from here. Yeah, this is stuff. This is like the PNGs. These are the Zelu PNG input buttons that were very popular some years ago, and I guess they still are kind of. I should really just get rid of those because I don't use them. Instead, I have SVG versions of those. At least for most buttons, probably not all of them. All right. Rightio. Oh yeah, and you can make, of course, these scripts you can add functions and things like this. I have some like functions for just creating things and laying them out with like for loops and all of that. It's kind of a neat way actually, especially if you are a programmer to begin with. It's a very sort of natural way of building UIs. I like it. So, what do we do then? Now we need to somehow kick off like a loading of. I need to kick off a loading of a sandbox game. How do we do that? So we actually already do something similar if we start a campaign game, because this is the main menu. This is the campaign menu. Now if I click that, then it will load into the game. And this is a sandbox menu. This is now where we want to do sort of the same thing. So we're doing it both from like sub menus. And the campaign menu actually, it sends a message called UI main menu start campaign game here. And if we listen to that, okay, first of all it sets the state back to the main menu, and then it sends the message. If we search for this start campaign game, we see that it's reacted to here in the client main menu state, and this thing asserts that we have a file path set, because yeah, we're actually, we're loading a campaign game here. Even if we are starting a new campaign, we are essentially technically loading one, because we just wrote like a new campaign game to a slot, and now we're loading it. So then we do fade with callback. This is like fading the screen to black, and when the fading is done, then we call this play campaign, and then we just set it to black. And this thing is actually the thing that kicks off the loading. Right? And we have a multiplayer one. I don't actually have the multiplayer button enabled there because multiplayer is all sorts of broken, but we can still actually play it if we just re-enable it. But let's add another one of these guys, and we call it on sandbox. Sandbox. Fade completed. And I think there's another thing that I did earlier today, kind of in preparation for this. Yeah. So we need to add a new state to our flow. We have main menu state, create single player game state, create campaign game state, and we want to add a create sandbox game state. We have an in-game state, post init state, campaign lobby, game unloaded. We have a bunch more states actually than this, but these are the ones that I've sort of overwritten with my custom code from Zig. So I've actually already created this sandbox state thing in the state machine, and we just need to hook it in here. But play sandbox is the name of the transition. If you guys are interested in this stuff, I can show you how the flow looks, but if not, then I'm not gonna go into detail with that. Yeah, we're actually in the main menu state here. This is where I just added this new sandbox fade completed. So here we want to run a transition called play sandbox. So we're just transitioning from a state into another state, and we do it with the transition with a certain name. Is that one actually? Play sandbox. Sandbox fade completed. Campaign fade completed is here. So we're just going to copy this guy, and we're going to call this something like UI main menu start sandbox game. We don't have this yet, so it's going to complain that what are you talking about? But can't be helped. On sandbox fade completed. Something like that. Client save file path. Yeah, we don't want that. That's not at all what we want. Client single player level path. I think that's closer to what we want, but I think actually this is game flow helper. It's just basically a module here, or a Zig file with some sort of some strings and booleans and things that can be read and written to from multiple places. That's what's called helper. I think we're gonna quite simply use this string for the level path, at least for now. So if you're launching a sandbox game, and let's pretend that this menu is now a beautiful menu where you can select like levels that come with the game, or levels that you've made yourself, or your friends have made, you've downloaded off, Steamworks or whatever. Got a nice list of levels here. You select one level, and that level will have a resource path that the engine wants to know when we start loading a game, actually. So we need to write that somewhere, and then we need the state, which is the new create sandbox state, which we will create in just a second. That state we'll need to read it from somewhere and pass it on to the actual level loading logic. So let's have this menu actually write it, and since we don't have a list of levels yet, let's just hard-codedly write this map sandbox bin level. This is a resource path to a level into that string, so that the loading logic can read it. And I think we're just gonna be reusing this same client single player level path thingy. So with all of that said, here in this new message that we are intercepting or listening to, we are still going to want to actually assert that we have this thing should not be empty because someone has made a boo-boo. But we want to actually write a sandbox. Try to start a sandbox game without setting the save file path. That's not actually what we want. It is the client single player level path. So level path. Hey Marlon, welcome to the stream. Right, trying to start a sandbox game without setting the level path to use. Or just level path, something like that, right? And then again we fade with a callback, 1/4 of a second from transparent to black, and then we do on sandbox fade completed, and this should kick off the actual thing. That's nice. So now we just need this message to exist. So let's add it here. Can you zoom in a little bit? Sure, yeah. If I can remember how to do it. That's a little much because I can't. Let's zoom in one level. Yeah, people have asked me to zoom in before, and my response is quite often that I can't because I happen to use tools that don't support zooming. In this case, I can zoom a little bit. Yeah. If you want to follow along on like a small screen, it might be a bit tricky to follow along on a small screen, to be honest. But yeah, I can zoom in a little bit for you if it makes it easier to follow along. So let's see here. Right, we have this. I'm just searching for where we have this start campaign game message. So we're sending it here. Start new game in slot. And load game in slot also sends it. And on campaign, right? If we're doing a Steam playtest, then we don't care about any save slots. We just have the one. So this just always writes like the playtest campaign save file and then just saves the thing immediately. Here we're defining it, and then we need to register it. So this is the important part. Here is where we need to register that new. Context, register message, game message dot start sandbox game and game message category dot UI. Like so. And that should be it. That should be all we need to do. Now we just need to send it. And we can send it here. Very much in the same way that we send it from the campaign menu. So we need to set the state back to main menu because we always want to leave the main menu in the when it's main in the main menu without having any sub menus open, right? So we have campaign, sandbox, or options. None of those, just the main menu. So we want these two lines essentially. Let's create a function for this actually. So let's do fn start game. That's what we will call it. Nothing more, nothing less. And this would be UI main menu start sandbox game. And here's where we'll call start game. So I think if we now do this, we haven't written that path that I said. We need to do it there in start game. So we're gonna assert fail here if we go into sandbox and press try to start sandbox game without setting the level path. But if we ignore this and just go on, we're gonna end up in some bad place. Yeah, trying to access violation execute. That's interesting. It's probably actually, is it that one maybe? I think so. Now that's interesting. It shouldn't crash. I'm gonna use that. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So immediately if I move the mouse, it crashes. And it's kind of obvious because like it's trying to send the mouse or call the mouse mode on a state. It does check if we have a state. So it's interesting that it crashes. I don't know what that's about. But that's probably something I'm gonna want to fix. I mean, it's not super important because we are literally transitioning into a state that we haven't set, but I don't want it to crash there. Because we should be able to just go into a state that doesn't have like a code representation. We don't want to do it here. We want to create our new create sandbox game state. But it's interesting that it crashes. I'm gonna wanna look at that, but maybe not now. Let's make a note for myself here to look at it like tomorrow or something. That is Unreal Engine or Godot. It's neither. No, this is my own game engine. So it's not Unreal Engine or Godot. I don't think we use those anymore. These are old things. Yes, we can get rid of those. Bye-bye. Use that. Yeah, evidently. Okay. That's fine. Right, so first of all, let's fix that assert failure, and that should be pretty easy. We just want to get the, what's it called? Means game flow helper, and we wanna write the path to it. So here in our start game, let's add a thing here called that would be means dot game flow helper client single player level path. This is where we want to, we need to call set on it. Yeah, this is where we want to actually get that that sandbox, the path of the selected level that we want to actually open, but we don't have any selection UI, nor do we have any levels for it yet. So let's do map sandbox bin level. That's the actual runtime level. So let's just do basis convert, and this will give us the resource path like that. And I'm just going to do catch unreachable here because I'm crazy like that. Maybe we can be a little more good citizens and actually do a try, and then we'll do a catch basis fatal error with name. You know, if we get an error there. This is a little annoying because like this goofy event. Yeah, this is a callback. So we can't add like an exclamation point there and then call. Oh, that must be a semicolon. And then call try. You know, this because this technically makes this a template or a generic function. So I don't know which one it technically becomes, but it's like it's a little tricky to get the address of a function that, you know, has like inferred error unions like that. So I need to catch the error like that specifically. That's just because this is a callback that would register here, an event callback, like so. So now if we run this, and we go into sandbox and start, we just go into a black screen. The thing is still running. I can't move the mouse. If I move the mouse, it crashes, like we just saw, like bloop, like that. Which makes using debug menus kind of tricky, but otherwise I could have shown you that the game is still running. But I need to fix that crash. I'm not gonna do it now. I'm just gonna march right on. But yeah, it's the game engine is just like sitting in an empty state, doing nothing. So we need to put a state there so that it actually, progresses. And the way we do that is probably by copy-pasting this state. So create single-player game state. I think this is the closest thing that we'll want. Closest thing to the thing that we want, right? In fact, I think the only thing we're going to want to really change here is this game master business that I talked about earlier. The fact that we're going to want to have our own game master for this. And all of this, of course, just to set up like... This is kind of like boilerplate in the sense that we don't do anything with the new game master yet. We can just print like a... Yay, you are now in the sandbox mode. But we can rest assured that then adding logic to that will be a cakewalk later on. So let's copy paste this guy and let's call it create sandbox game state. And in here I'm gonna want to do that as well. Sandbox game state. Making sure we actually use all of this, but I think we do. So most of this is just boilerplate. It's initializing the state. We are subscribing to a message category game flow. Start loading game. Yeah, here's some commented out stuff that we can take away. I'm gonna take it away from this one as well, so I don't think it's been relevant for a long time. So we subscribe to a category of engine messages, game flow. And here is loading complete. It's important to return false here is in this state the server might load really quickly and call is loading complete before the client has even started loading. Yeah. So we need to sort of keep the client and the server in sync, at least for single player games, so that they sort of the server checks in with the client. Hey, are you done loading? And then when they both have finished loading, then they continue into the actual game. If you're loading like an empty level, or let's say like a level that has one mesh, nothing else, one mesh, and the server won't have anything to load because the server doesn't load meshes, right? They're a visual thing, so they're a client thing. Even though loading that one mesh takes almost no time on the client, loading nothing at all on the server takes literally no time. So the server might just go, "Hey, are you done?" And if the client hasn't actually even started doing that because it's it's loading the resource pack that contains that one mesh or something, the client might go, "Yeah, I'm not currently loading anything." And I've had some issues before, so that's what this comment here is about. We don't need a D in it, but it's part of the interface, so I have it there commented out. So then on enter, here we check. This is the actual path that we wrote there earlier, client single player level path. Let's just make sure that is actually the case. I'm not talking out of my ass here. Nope, this is what we wrote. Map sandbox bin level. And let's do like a to-do. Write the actual selected level path here once we have a UI to select one or something. So that should be good. this won't fail. We fade from black to transparent. Apparently that's, I don't know why do we need to do that, but yeah, maybe we do. I don't know. Let's leave it for now because it's used in the single player one as well. Single player being like a pretty bad name for just like load into a level. You know, without any kind of game mode. And then we get to tell the server already at this point, hey, first of all, is it a continuous session? This is mostly used with multiplayer games. So if you have a multiplayer game, you can keep the game running, you can keep all the clients connected to it in between missions if you want to go into some sort of lobby or something, right? So that's what this continuous session is. We're not going to want to have it as a continuous session in this case. Layers is just an empty slice. We don't have any layers. This is technically an empty slice of. No, sorry. This is an empty slice of string literals. Yeah, this looks kind of strange, but that's what it is. It's an empty slice of string literals. So basically an empty list of strings if you want to give it some like layers to load. So if you're loading into the campaign, for example, we have some layers that get loaded in addition to the normal layers, like hey, load the mission layer, things like that. We don't have anything like that. And here is where we will want to actually now give the name of our new game master. So let's call it Sandbox Game Master. And then we create a slice of, or this is technically like I guess a one array, one element array, and then we get a slice to that. No, actually that's the array. The slice is gotten by using this ampersand here, and this can be called Sandbox Game. Why not? The level path to load is given there, and that's it. And then when the game is created, we have a callback here, but this is kind of like not really used for anything. Create and load single player game is sort of like an umbrella function for doing, what is it? Create and load separately, I think. Yeah, create single player game, load single player game, and then we have this thing which is like create and load single player game, which does all of it in one go. Again, it has to do with multiplayer. Like if you want to set up a multiplayer game, go into a lobby and wait for other players to join you, you want to create the game, but you don't want to start loading it. So yeah, sort of like the engine's multiplayer sort of design sort of comes through a little bit here. Right, so we do that. Still need to give it a callback. This is kind of stupid. Maybe I should actually just take this away, but whatever, it's fine. And then at some point, when we do this, there's a whole bunch of things actually that happen. Because when you are in this state, you have just exited the main menu, right? You have selected a sandbox level and you've selected start game. There's not even a server running at this point. So create and load single player game actually starts a server even. Yeah, creates a local server, connects to the game, joins it as the creator and starts loading into the given level with the given layers and session objects. Must be called on the client. So this is just like, this just does a whole bunch of things, and that can take some time. It's an asynchronous thing. And that is why we are actually listening to these game flow messages. Because at some point the server will send start loading game to the client. And so we get it here. That is where we can then continue in the flow. So that's a little bit of a roundabout way. We don't use that, so we can take that away, and we don't use it here in the single player one, which I copied it from either. Let's take those away. Okay, that should be good. So now if we run this, nothing will happen because we haven't actually hooked this in. We need to hook it in, and we hook it in by going to the app and hooking it in here. So let's add it right here after this one, const. I'm gonna import it. Game flow, client, create sandbox. Nope, not that one, sandbox. So this is just like shortening it. We're importing the Zig file that we just created. We're getting the game state out of that, and then we're just shortening it here to just be that name. And we can register it. We need to register it with the name that I have put there in the comment there above. So type is the type we just did, and this is basis app flow state flags none. Create sandbox game state. Just copy that in there. And this is like play sandbox is the transition that I added earlier today, which tells us to go from the main menu state into this state, and then continue is how we get onwards from that. And if we look here at the code that we just had, you can see that the continue is already there, so that's like correctly set up already. We can take that comment away. It's good. I'm kind of reminded how this works myself now. So, sandbox. Now we should start loading into the game, but we should get an assert. And the assert is that we don't have a game object type with gameplay sandbox game master. That makes sense, does it not? So let's add one of those. We can just come in here and take the campaign one and duplicate it. And call it sandbox game master. Like so. But now if we use this, actually drag it up there to under the campaign one. Now if we use this as it is going to create a campaign game master component for us, which is probably not a very good idea. So while we're at it, let's create the actual game master component as well. Yeah, this should be good. So I'm gonna take that and copy that, and then just do sandbox game master component here as well. Sandbox, replace. I'm just gonna comment that out completely. And what do we have? Here we can see why, by default, why you actually get a scout in the game if you're just loading into a level. That's because of this. Spawn player avatar. This isn't actually even called. Okay, good. We can do some cleanup here while we're at it. Spawn player avatar. Yeah, the campaign doesn't spawn anything. Campaign game master doesn't spawn anything because it kind of expects the script to actually have a specific vehicle already created for the guy, for the player, which makes sense because like the campaign typically has some opinions on what kind of vehicle is to be used. There's just like all kinds of things here, not really being used for anything. Anyway, let's leave it as it is. Right. Here though, we will probably want to spawn something, won't we? Kind of thinking we probably will want to have that. Let's look at the Game Master. Oh, it's just Game Master component. This one. Yeah, this one uses the spawn player avatar function. So this one is actually what I said previously. This is why you get a scout. Take that away as well. This is why you get a scout by default. And it's called player 0, basically, or player 1, depending on the spawn point index. But it's just hard-codedly using spawn point 0 unless you are in multiplayer. Okay, that's nice. I'm going to move this off to the side so I can actually see it here, because we're going to want to copy some of that code over into our sandbox here. So spawn player avatar, I think this function is probably exactly the same, but let's just copy this over that to make sure. Yeah, it probably is. It doesn't matter. And then we'll do this as well. And I think that should be everything we need. So when we get the message game started, if we are in single player mode, which we currently always are, and this returns a game session type, so in newer versions of Zig we can just do this. Just a point there. Much nicer. Some of these types are so ridiculously long that it's much nicer to be able to just do this. Rightio. So if we are in single player, we get a we get the client proxy. Remember, we're on the server here. This is if context on server. So the client proxy is sort of like the server's view of a client, which is kind of like the same as a player, but from like a network perspective. Client with index 0 because we only have one because we are in single player, and then we call spawn player avatar. With the client proxy, we actually only need the host ID for that, which will essentially always be 1. But this is technically the correct way to get that. Get the first client and get the host ID out of that. And spawn point index, as I said earlier, is currently just hard-codedly set to 0. That's one thing that you might want to expose to the players so that they can, if they create a level that has like 3 or 4 spawn points, maybe you can like randomize where the player starts in the level or something. And yeah, then we spawn the player. So we get a name. We create a name for it, player 0. And then we actually create the game object with spawn point index. Object name, object type, spawn point index, and then we set the avatar object immediately to be the newly created object. So we don't just create a vehicle, we also give that vehicle to the player. It's kind of like in a nutshell what that means. Because of course you can create a vehicle and not give it to the player. So then we need to register the new component, like so. Whoops, what am I doing? That's not good. That's not good. Yeah, I think we're basically done. We need to use this sandbox game master component in the blueprint that we created, and specifically it's this string here that we want, means.sandbox game master component. So let's just plonk that in there. And yeah, we can see that it's supposed to be named Game Master. Game Master is a little bit of a magical object type in this engine. Like there are parts of the engine that actually expects there to be a Game Master, and it is supposed to have a component called Game Master with a small G and a large M. It's supposed to exist on the client and server, so we need to be very specific about these things. There aren't like a whole bunch of different things like this, but this is one of them. So means.sandbox Game Master component. Amadou says, I'm understanding half of what you're explaining, but still it's interesting. I'm glad. I realize this is... sometimes these streams are just like super intuitive for everyone, you know, if I'm doing like level design or, you know, or drawing something or whatever. Today we're pretty sort of solidly in game engine boilerplate land. And for some people, game engine boilerplate land might be their favorite land. For other people, it's like, ugh, what is this? What is this thing? Yeah, this is kind of interesting actually. The Zig language has evolved over time. And some of this stuff is actually really old code. So I'm just going through here and finding like, oh, okay, actually I don't have to do game session pointer dot init null. I can just do dot null these days. That didn't used to be possible previously. So it's... I'm sort of gotten into a habit of just like going over certain things, looking for certain things that I know, oh, I don't need to do it that complicated anymore these days. I can just do it like this or like that. And it's great. So, let's see if this works. This should now actually boot into the game. Sandbox, start. Does it boot into the game? Look at that. We gotta scout. Let's just see what happens if we do copy to clipboard type. So now we copied vehicle gripper truck to the clipboard, and then we go into sandbox game master, and we give it here gripper truck. I mean, I guess you see where I'm going with this. It's one way to test if our sandbox game master component is actually being used, right? Hey, we've got a truck. We've got a truck to play around with. Yoink. Blameless says C++ dev here. Right, I don't know if you meant I'm a C++ dev or you're a C++ dev, but regardless, doesn't matter. Welcome. Did you try Odin Lang? It's pretty good for game dev and similar stuff. You know what? I've talked with Ginger Bill on the Zig Discord. I don't know what he was doing there, but he was on the Zig Discord. And he was like, yeah, your game is pretty cool, but it would be even cooler if it was made in Odin. And I told him, yeah, I'll make this one in Zig, and then I'll do the next one in Odin. Yeah, it looks pretty alright. I don't really know if truth be told, Zig and Odin are kind of... They're similar enough languages that I don't know if I really need both of them in my life, right? Like, don't get me wrong, I know there are many differences between those two, but like if you compare, Rust to Zig, or you compare JavaScript to Zig, or you compare Haskell to Zig, then Zig and Odin are actually kind of similar, right? In many ways. Can I plonk those there? I think this level was actually made with the original gripper, which is that blue vehicle over there. I think if I lower it, yeah, it snaps into place. So I don't know if I really need Odin. I'm actually kind of happy with Zig. Not super happy with everything the Zig project does, but I'm fairly happy with Zig as the language. Not that I don't have like any sort of wishes, because I do. What do you use Zig for? The entire game is basically written in Zig, right? So things like how do we load an image file? How do we load a texture file? Or how do we load a shader? Or how do we create the window? Or how do we play back a sound effect, like the actual like samples? That stuff is C++. But things like, you know, how many wheels should this vehicle have, or how should the camera move, and should the camera do this when we move it close to like a physics object, and like how should this gripper arm here, you know, behave? If we go and have a look at code here, that's all Zig. So gripper truck arm component. Your engine or back in the C++, right? Yes. Yes, it is. And here's the gripper truck arm component. It's one of the kind of like larger, I guess, components from a gameplay perspective. So this is just like does all of the math and all of the physics stuff and all of the moving around of meshes and all of that. That's all Zig. Let's see. Right, we have lots of questions. I'm gonna drink a little bit of water. 1 second. So Lameless asks, any tips for game engine development and structure? You know, I probably have. That is a completely different question if you should actually listen to me or not. Well, I probably have. But all right, yeah. Now that we plugged in those 3 power cells there, this thing is just gonna get like so many physics objects. Let's see, I can even switch to these guys here. Yep. Can I go to that one in the middle there? Yeah. Yeah, like I mentioned earlier in the stream, if we just let this run, it will spawn infinitely many physics objects for us. I'm just stuck here now. It'll spawn infinitely many physics objects, and eventually it will crash. It will take quite a long time for it to crash, but it will like basically, there's some list that gets full and then it just like barfs or something. So this is a little bit of a risky thing to have running like this. I have become physics destroyer of frames. Yeah, Matt might actually remember. I think you were probably in the stream like half a year ago or something when we were last time messing around in this level. Like I haven't worked on the sandbox mode for ages, right? I actually designed this, if we can call it that. I made this level on stream. wouldn't really call it designing. Spent like 20 minutes making this on stream, and I think we did some stuff back then. Yeah, now I'm gonna like this structure is sort of like doesn't really work with these vehicles even. Right. So yeah, regarding the engine tips, I probably have some tips for stuff like that, but it's sort of like such a wide area, such a wide sort of. I'm just gonna remove one of those guys quickly to stop the spawning. There we go. Yeah, just like asking someone for tips. Okay, I have a few. I have a few very generic tips, very sort of high-level tips for you. I'm assuming here that you want to make a game engine to actually build games with it, right? Not just make an engine to make an engine. But you want to make an engine to actually build games, build and ship games with it. I haven't shipped like a commercial game with this engine, but I've shipped many small things with it. So I guess I can sort of like, I guess it counts. You can even play Traction Point, you know, right now if you want to. If you go to Discord and download the pre-alphas. So I guess I'm like, you know. I have some knowledge of actually shipping games with my own engine. So the first tip is don't spend too much time on the renderer. The renderer is like a major time sink. And if you actually want to ship a game with your engine, you're probably going to want to ship a game that's not like super graphically intensive anyway. Because if that is what you want to do, if you want to ship, you know, the next. You want to ship the next. What is a graphically intensive game? If you want to ship the next Cyberpunk, then you're not gonna do it using your own engine. I'm sorry. That's just not gonna happen. Instead, you're gonna build some super cool and innovative indie game that gonna look super nice and has a distinct art style. But doesn't have the most technically advanced, or doesn't require the most technically advanced renderer. So don't spend like 3 or 4 years building just the renderer and then going, right, okay, now the renderer is good, and now I'm gonna build the rest of the engine. If you want to ship a game, don't do that. You're just gonna be sad and disappointed when you actually get to the game building part. And then by the time you then have your, by the time you spend like a year building up your object systems and everything, your renderer is going to be out of date anyway, and then you're going to be sad, and then you're going to spend another 5 years on your renderer. So like, just make whatever you want. Make whatever is good enough so that you can actually start prototyping your game, and then add one more feature after another as you need it, right? There's lots of things I don't have yet in this in the renderer sense. Like I don't have like omnidirectional shadow maps, for example. I have directional shadow maps for things like the sun, like this, like you can see now, and then I have shadow maps for like spotlights. But I don't have point light shadows because I haven't really needed them. I probably should have, but I don't. Things like that. That's one tip. Another tip is like prioritize the this is something I've thought about for a long time, but I don't exactly know how to put it into words. Prioritize the workflow of getting new data into your game. Like make it super easy to add a new mesh to your game. Make it super easy to add a collision shape, a basic collision shape for an object. Like I'm assuming you're doing like 3D now, but I guess the same thing goes for 2D as well. Right? Because if it takes a long time to add a new mesh into your game, it takes a lot of work, then you're not gonna do it, and you're not gonna iterate on the things that make a good game. I sound like I know what I'm doing here. I really don't. But that's something I've sort of learned over time. Like, you know, spend enough time to make it easy to add stuff to your game, right? That would be one tip. I had another one. What was the other tip that I had? Oh yeah. Kind of similar to the renderer. Something that like a lot of people tend to spend ages on these days are like entity component systems. And I feel like most people, they want to make an entity component system. They want to make it super, you know, fancy tech-wise. They want to be able to multi-thread all of their object updates. They want to make everything cache-friendly. They want to make it very flexible, so you can do all sorts of queries on the data and all of that, like all of that stuff. And then the thing is that like most indies don't really need that stuff. Most indies, some games do, sure, yeah. Most games don't. They don't need a way to do multi-threaded updates and querying of arbitrary combinations of objects and have everything be cache friendly and blah blah blah. They just don't. Like the 99, or like, not 99, but 95% of the screen time is going to go to your rendering anyway. So just make sure that you don't do anything super stupid on the rendering side, and then your object updates are probably going to be just fine. So if you want to build an ECS, sure, do it. Build an ECS. Make it simple enough that you can build it kind of quickly, and then if it sucks, you can throw it out and build a new one, or you can throw it out and not build a new one and just have like another object model. ECS is not the only model you can go with. I don't use an ECS. I work at a company where we use an ECS, and ECSs are fine, but I don't particularly like working in that paradigm, so I don't have an ECS. Object updates are they're freaking they're never visible in any profilers. There can be a little bit of like AI logic that sometimes shows up or something like that, physics stuff, but that's not like my object model is never too slow. And then yeah, like Jake is saying there, if you want to use an ECS, if you really sort of like, you want to use an ECS because you like the idea of an ECS and you want to build your gameplay code using the ECS paradigm, just use an existing one. So use like Flex or Ent or Entity or whatever it's called. They're really good. They're super good, and I'm sure there's probably one for each programming language out there anyway. So just use one of those. Don't build your own, right? If you really want to use an entity component system. What do you think of scripting languages? Is it worth implement them? I guess you use Zig and AngelScript as a scripting language. I'm just way too excited about scripting, to be honest. I have many scripting languages, many different scripting solutions. Yes, I use AngelScript. I use AngelScript for all kinds of things. Let's open the level editor here quickly. I made some simple scripts here some time ago. I wonder if it's still actually here or not. Yeah, I'm kind of thinking it's probably actually not. Probably threw it out. Trigger volumes, yeah. This level is very much like not scripted yet. But I had a script here at some point, but I think I threw it out. Okay, I'm gonna have to load the big one. It's not that one even. Actually, we can load that. Sure. Intro. AngelScript is a little bit of a problem for me, to be honest, because I'm using Zig. AngelScript is I wouldn't recommend AngelScript to anyone unless you're using C++. Right? One thing you need to kind of know and understand about my tech stack is that it has some historical baggage that I've quite simply invested so much time in that I just don't want to throw it out, and that makes certain things a bit more complicated than they otherwise would. Right, so here's an intro level. This is not something that you actually play around in, although you can do that. You can just hit F5 and then you can play around in it. But this is essentially just like a level for a cinematic. So I think if we run this, yeah, we got a camera animation here which is scripted. Things like this. But yeah, this guy, we have some AngelScript here. I'm sure. Camera animation. Oh yeah, intro. Here we go. So here's a bit of AngelScript for you. So I use AngelScript to do things like this. I have a very simple 9-line script here. We get a message sent to this object. If the message is intro timeline finished, then we don't even use that for anything, but we just call travel to. So it's sort of like glue code, right? Here's another slightly more complicated script. This sets up the timeline. Timeline is sort of like, in Unreal they would call this a sequencer, I believe. And I like making tools for all sorts of things, but I haven't had time to or energy for that matter to make a sequencer. It's on my to-do list one day, but for now I just create these guys from script instead. So you can sort of like imagine like a timeline, as the name suggests. You put events on that timeline, and then you can play it, and it starts playing back the timeline, and then it triggers those events, as it progresses, and then you can skip the timeline, and it sort of figures out, okay, what did we jump over, and blah blah. So I use scripts for this. This is very handy because this way I can package the entire setting up of this thing, right, directly in the level file. So you asked me if is it worth doing it. Yes, I absolutely believe it's worth doing it, because otherwise this would have to go somehow into like the code of the game, and this is a very, very specific to this level piece of logic. So if I had a Zig file somewhere with a name like refinery intro blockout timeline setup.zig, after about a year of development, I would have like 50 of those very specific pieces of code, and I wouldn't really probably even have all the levels that they belong to, and then I would have to clean them up and blah blah blah. It's it's much nicer to just be able to add this logic to the level itself, and then keep it here. So I like this a lot. The fact that I combined Zig with AngelScript makes certain things a little tricky. So I don't use AngelScript for like a whole lot in this particular game, because like I made it so that I can have a component in Zig and I can expose methods from that component. So like, you know, this finalized setup thing here, for example, this is probably a what's this called? Means scripted timeline component, right? So if we go and have a look, oh, it's not here. And it's not there. Let's just close that one and go here. Scripted timeline component. So this has a finalize setup function, and here you can see a little bit of that complexity that comes with, you know, using AngelScript with Zig. You have things like int pointers, and you have call convention C and things like that. To get the self pointer for this, you need to do a little bit of jumping through hoops to get the self pointer from this int pointer, and then you can actually call the actual function, you know, which does the finalized timeline thing. So that is called when you call self.finalize setup here. So yeah, I don't do like a whole lot of actual like gameplay logic in AngelScript, but it's very handy and even important for me to be able to do this sort of glue code in AngelScript, right? What's your native language? Is it a natural tone of voice or your great accent work? Oh boy, yeah, I had a person comment on on the video I put out a few days ago that he hates my S's. My S's, they're very sharp, and if I could EQ them away. Yeah. So, yeah, my native language is actually Swedish. I'm a Finland Swede, so it's Swedish with a Finnish accent. So make of that what you will. I'm sorry for my sharp S's and other things. Right, but yeah, something like Lua might have been a better choice if I knew from the beginning I was going to go with Zig. The reason I have AngelScript here is because I've also built games using this engine that have been written completely in C++, except for the scripting part, that is. And with C++, AngelScript works really great. It is designed for that, after all. Another thing that I do these days is I do a lot of visual scripting, and I like visual scripting much more for certain things. So here is, for example, if you play the demo, which you can do if you go to the Discord, join the Discord, and you download Pre-Alpha 2, and you just click Start New Game. You get put into a level which has you playing through a mission. Here is that mission in script form. So you can see that you know, there's some dialogue in here. We are essentially like progressing from here, from the left to the from left to right, and here's the final thing. The thing I like about this is that this almost reads like a script in like a, you know, like a movie script or something like that. And you can go back to previous phases, you can go forward, you can jump over phases, and you can sort of see where everything fits together. And so, you know, the player drives around the level. This is a phase. It's just these phases don't really mean anything. It's just, you know, conceptual phases. But you can have something like you're waiting for a condition, and the condition is that the player has been at station or refinery. And then when this is true, you go forward and you set the mission guidance to, you know, find a way into the lift station. And then when that is true, you wait for another condition, player currently inside the station, and then you stop doing something. And then like you can go forward, you can jump to like a jump target. Here you can see here's a jump. P2 background checks is probably here. Yeah, P2 background checks is here. So you can jump here and start doing these things, and then you can jump back. This may seem like very, very complicated, but we have like probably like 50 different checks going on here at the same time in this. It's not like you can only have one thing running at the same time. You can have multiple of these running at the same time. For example, here we're waiting for a condition, player at junction, and then when player at junction is true, we start all of these things at the same time, and we track all of them at the same time. Here's a background check, for example. Things like this. So I do a lot of scripting this way these days because I just find it a lot nicer for certain things. I also do a lot of audio processing this way, or essentially all of my audio processing. So here we have actually let's open another project. Let's open the dev project. Has a bunch of different things in it. I'm kind of I'm a little nervous that some of these are just gonna sound horrible. So here we are, like we're repeating every second we play an audio, and the audio is a metal hit wave sound. And then you can send signals to it. So if you send the signal, please stop, you can see that it like it prints some things here. So stopped was printed when I hit that, things like that. And you can like drive the playback speed. Yeah, here's some funky stuff. Pitch test. Let's see if this actually works. I'm gonna shut off the music for a little bit and get some other music. Alright, so it's printing the time, and that comes from this thing here. And then we can do stuff like this. So we can set the speed to pretty high, but the pitch to pretty low. All kinds of fun things, and this is very handy, you know. I'm sure you can imagine if you're driving these parameters from the game, this can be very handy to like just adjust a whole bunch of things in a very sort of intuitive way. So I do a lot of scripting this way these days, and I feel like it is much better than textual scripts, but not for everything. For like gluing together things that happen in the level, I use AngelScript for that, and it's really good. So if we open the actual demo level, map refinery, just need to be able to call AngelScript from Nemo, from Zig. Script in a script in a script. I think you can do that actually. Yeah, I think you can do that actually. So yeah, so Nemo is this. That's this mission scripting business. So this guy has something called a send script message. You can just send a message to the thing that is set as the control script. So mission elevator control script. If we go to the level editor here, we can probably find it. So that would be mission elevator control script is right here. You can see that this guy just has a bunch of else ifs and else ifs here. Start mission, set true, set false, power station object inserted, power station object removed. Right, these kinds of things. And yeah, you can control this script from Zig. So it actually it is possible to do that. No joke. No joke. But yeah, here if we go and have a look, I think the icons are probably underground, aren't they? Or maybe they're hidden. There should be an icon here somewhere. Oh, it's probably the object itself is hidden. I bet. Junction trigger area. Yeah, it's hidden. That's why it doesn't show. Here's the thing I was looking for. So you can see here's a trigger area like this. There's another one here. When the player hits or when something hits it actually, on object entered, we send it to the parent. We send the message enter. The parent is this junction trigger area. And junction trigger area has like a hit count calculation sort of thing, which just means that, like, you know, if you have a vehicle which just has a bunch of different objects that can hit this trigger, it sort of keeps track of, like, oh, okay, this object was already inside, and now another part of the object is inside. Sometimes that is important. Sometimes you only want to know if an object, any part of that object, has entered. So then this thing is fired on object entered, and we check, is it the single player avatar? And if it is, we call this set true player at junction, which then, you know, goes to this thing here, and then we can, well, here it is actually, player at junction. So basically, when the single player hits one of these triggers, then this wait for condition will evaluate to true, and it will just keep going. That's how it works. Alrighty then. Right. Feel free to, keep asking questions. I'm just gonna see if I have anything more that I want to do here. I think I'm gonna put it back to the scout there, and we are going to probably do just this. Oh, my keyboard's switched languages again for some reason. Windows keeps doing that for me these days. I don't know what is up with Windows. I can just be an else if. Right, so let's do like basis print sandbox mode. Let's not actually print it. Let's put it in the debug overlay. Oh, access denied. That would be because we have the game running, actually. Saw a random YouTube video yours was like cool Finnish YouTuber. Oh, from the first sentence. Yeah, it's interesting that it's so very recognizable. But hey, it's fine. Yay, sandbox mode. Okay, so now we are in sandbox mode. Now we have a place to start putting just like, you know, Halo Forge like things if we want to into this thing. And it's not gonna interfere with the campaign or just with the sort of nothing mode. And you might wonder, okay, what do I need the nothing mode for? Well, that is, for example, if you're editing this level in the editor, and you just wanna play the level, you're gonna want to have some sort of nothing mode where there's essentially like no, it's not that, it's that one, where there is essentially no game mode at all, right? So this thing here, if we now just, you know, put a like a, I don't know, some trees here, it renders the thumbnails there. Some trees here. We wanna see if we can actually fit through that. You can just go. You don't even need to save that. You can just go. Okay, I want to play that. Let me play it, and then you have this thing which doesn't really have anything going on. No logic is running. You can just mess around with the level. You don't even technically need to have a car here, or an avatar or anything like that. You can even just, you know, delete this guy. Bye-bye. And now we can have free camera. Free camera running. And of course, I'm aiming to make all of this available to you guys. The point of the sandbox mode is to mess around, have fun, and experiment with things. And I want to make the editor available to you. I want to make mod support available to you. I want to make it so you can do all of this stuff. Write your own mods in Zig, or whatever ends up getting exposed. I'm only gonna do Zig, but technically anything would work. Anything that can communicate with the C interface would work. So that should be fine. Bonk. And that's actually, let's make sure. No, I still don't need to save that. Yeah, we don't get the sandbox mode here, and that is, as I said, that is deliberate. We don't want the sandbox mode there. Cool. So let's comment that out. I have some other things I wanna run here, so I'm gonna leave that there for now. Coolio. I think that's basically everything I had planned to do today. Where are we on time? We're coming up on 3 hours. That's a pretty good one. See if I missed any questions. How did you learn DirectX and engine creation? Can you recommend any resources? Yeah, that was some time ago. Sorry if I missed some of your questions. There's just so many today. But that's awesome. I learned DirectX through Frank Luna's DirectX books. They're really good, but they're kind of out of date these days. So this thing, d3decoder.net, in particular these two books, Direct3D 11 and Direct3D 12. Oh, some of these images don't seem to want to load, apparently. Like this book, this D3D 11 book is really good, but I can't really wholeheartedly recommend this these days, because this uses the old effect framework, which you can still use. It's fine, but it's kind of like deprecated. I mean, I guess entirety of Direct3D 11 is deprecated. But yeah, I learned through these two. They have some good explanations of the math, and that's still, of course, completely valid. Engine creation is just mostly like trying out things. Of course, I worked as an engine programmer, like professionally, for many years, so you sort of learn on the job as well. But yeah, I had my own engines way before that. Not really any super good resources for that. If you absolutely want a resource, then I guess the Jason Gregory book, Game Engine Architecture. This is an absolute tome. This is an absolute tome of a thing. How many pages is this now? I don't have this. What is this? Third edition. I don't have the third edition. I have the first, and oh, that's another good one. I'm gonna have to. Yeah, 1,240 pages. If you absolutely want a good book on game engine building, then this is a good one. This is not a step-by-step tutorial or anything like that. It's just mostly like it explains how game engines work. And Jason Gregory is a Naughty Dog engine programmer, so he knows his stuff. And this is a good one. This is also a good one. I think this is actually available for free, right? Game, what was it? Game programming patterns. It's not. It's not available for free, is it? I'll read now. Yes. You can read it on the internet. You can read it on the internet. This is a fun one. It's like a collection of things that are good to know. That's pretty neat. One more quick question. I don't have a. I'm not in a hurry to end this, so no worries. Just if you have questions, just ask. I'm just kind of like I don't know how much energy I have to actually do any work, but I'll sure hang around and answer questions if you have any. And yes, I'll answer your question in a little bit. Just gonna go get a little bit more water because I've been yapping so much. Right, I remember one thing, and yeah, I'll answer your UI question in just a little bit. So this is a page that I've gotten a lot of help from over the years. I'm a little confused about the state of this page these days. It tends to have a lot of ads and things like that, and it's very slow. I don't even really know how to use this interface anymore. But this has there's some really good people on here. At least used to be, but I think that's still the case. Like Joe J, for example, or Frob. They're both super helpful and nice people. And this has the benefit of having a forum. So there are certain things that like just work better on forums compared to something like Discord. You can just put a question here, and it kind of like remains here for a little bit longer than something like a Discord. I don't really know how to use this though anymore. Oh, here we go. So here we have programming, general and gameplay programming, engines and middleware. So this is actually a very good place to just go, hey, I figured I would, you know, build something like this, and I have this issue, and you know, putting the entire game instance on a heap object, is that a good idea or not? And there's like 11 comments. There's some really good stuff here. I kind of recommend you at least keeping this in mind if you have a problem or a question or just wondering about something. This tends to be a really good place. Like the site is annoying these days. Can't be a you know, it has to be said basically. But the people on here are actually really good. So that's that. Okay, so did you use a framework for Engines editor? Right. Yes, I did. It's not cute. To everyone's shock and horror, it's Windows Forms. So basically all of my tools are WinForms applications, which is both an awesome thing and a horrible thing. It's an awesome thing because WinForms, like I just shock people every time I say this, but like I truly, honestly believe WinForms to be one of the most sort of most easy to use and productive. Oh, this chugs a little bit when it's rendering these images. Yeah, there we go. Now it's smoother. It shocks people when I say it, but I truly believe it to be super productive and nice and easy to use and powerful and all of that. So this is WinForms. You know, this is well, okay, this is the particle editor. Yeah, I have a particle editor as well. Some reasonably complicated effects. Yeah, there's a fire for you. Yep, this is WinForms. Everything's WinForms. It's horrible because it kind of locks me to Windows for now, at least. I would probably try to use IMGUI, dear IMGUI, whatever you want to call it, these days, to build something like this, just to make it a bit more portable, like you say there in the chat. So there are a few other ones as well. There's Avalonia. Avalonia is a pretty interesting thing. This is cross-platform. This is .NET. I like C# for my tools. I think it's a very nice language for that. But I guess these days I could also write them in Zig, I guess. But yeah, for now I have all my tools in C# basically, except for a few that are almost completely in C++. But yeah, Avalonia could be one. That's a C# framework as well. And then just, you know, ImGUI. This thing can be kind of skinnable to a certain extent these days. My Indian is gonna use ImGUI, lol. Yeah, absolutely. Avalonia is nice, but Avalonia is XAML, right? XAML. And I hate XAML with a passion. I just absolutely despise this thing. I'm saying that as someone who has actually worked as a WPF person at some point. I just absolutely hate XAML. So if you like XAML, then sure, Avalonia is probably really nice. One issue, at least there used to be an issue with Avalonia, is that like the control or widget library for it was pretty small. You had to basically build everything yourself. If that's not an issue, then you're probably good to go. I like WinForms because it has like a shitload of controls built in, and it used to have, it doesn't really have nowadays anymore, but it used to have a very vibrant sort of community of people just building controls for it. So that was a pretty nice thing. Flutter is another one. Flutter. It's a little strange. It's like some time ago I built a pretty complicated app on Flutter. The main reason for choosing Flutter was that it needed to run in browsers. Flutter has a very good library of controls. Clay is probably not up your alley there. Clay is that's the layouting one, isn't it? If you mean this thing, C layout. I don't know why I wouldn't like this. I've actually thought about maybe using this, but maybe I wouldn't, because I don't really do any layouting in my. I mean, I have my own UI for the game. I mean, we talked about it earlier, right? Talked about it earlier. This thing, you know, does this kind of stuff. This is like a custom UI library that, you know, you need to have some layouting to be able to do this stuff, and I've basically written it by hand. I don't have like a whole lot of layout. I have some like stacking widgets, like these things here, for example, are put like in a stacking widget, and it you can hide a button and it like moves these guys up depending on how you have it set up, that sort of thing. And I could use Clay for that. So yeah, I don't think Clay is necessarily off the table for me. It could actually be kind of interesting. Well, yeah, as far as I know, it does only layouting. It doesn't render anything. It doesn't have any widgets or anything, right? It's just layouting. Hax UI. Yeah, I've heard of Hax UI. Hax UI. I mean, isn't Hax? Hax is like a language, and it also has some sort of It also has some sort of game engine thingy. Hacks for game development. Yeah, Dead Cells, exactly, yeah. Dead Cells is written in hacks. Cross-platform rich user experience, quickly using multiple frameworks for desktop, web, and mobile. That sounds interesting. I don't know about the hacks language. It could be worth looking into, yeah. Absolutely. Playground. Uh-oh, this looks SAML-like. What do I do? Padding style VBox. Examples. Okay, let's go. Basic layouts. Nothing happened. Yeah, I don't know why this actually doesn't load any of those examples. It's just an empty VBox. Is that Flutter but hacks then? I don't know. I don't exactly know what you mean. Flutter is a little strange. It's almost like constructor-based programming, right? Like you're essentially nesting constructors, and your constructors can be like many hundred lines long, and it's using Dart as the language, and Dart has a bunch of features for actually sort of making that kind of nice. It has some pretty neat VS Code integrations and all of that, but it's a very strange sort of paradigm to wrap your head around. That's apparently pretty popular as well. OpenFL, what is that? Look here, Flash is dead lonely, OpenFL. Huh. Is that like a... Oh, what? Nope. Alright, here we go. It's from March 2014. I think OpenFL will rise from its ashes and take its place as Flash never could. So that's interesting. Flash was a nice idea. That was kind of poorly implemented. For me, I like keeping everything in Zig. I'm actually here in Zig sub. Yeah. Absolutely. I do quite a lot in Zig, actually. So, you know, just as an example, just yesterday, I built this thing, right? So here's a custom widget. This is your very typical. I'm hoping this is obvious what this actually means, right? So if you start the game for the first time, you come in here and you select campaign, and you select the save slot as this text here says, and you just go, okay, yes, I want to create a new game in the selected slot, and then you start the game and blah 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 blah. Yeah, we can skip that. And what I did, if we now go back to the menu, now of course we have a game there in save slot 0. This should say something like the name of the level or whatever. But yeah, it has a. These are all the same widget, and it kind of like, reacts based on whether or not there is a save there and whatnot. And it also has this delete button section here, which you can click on. And this is all Zig actually. So if you go to save slot widget. Here is the thing. There's some commented out code still here. So save slot widget. We just have a bunch of images. SVG image pointer. These are sort of like, well, wrappers for things that are then rendered on the C++ side. Alright, so you know, there's a little bit of C++ poking through in this code base here and there. But the actual widget is then just fully Zig. So in it we are loading the things, we are de-initting the things, we're updating. Update is actually just the only thing update does is you can see this text is kind of like flashing ever so slightly. So there's just like a sine wave that makes that happen. We need the time for that. Then we have a render callback. So here's where we render the entire thing, render the images. We figure out the text color. Here's that sine wave somewhere. There's the sine wave for the glow. Then we render the text. Or we set up the text and then we render the text. And in the event callback, we just figure out like, okay, did we click? Where did we click? Is the delete button focused? Well, that has to do with like where on the actual widget you are. Things like this. So that's pretty neat. I like it a lot, and I think this turned out pretty well. I hope it's obvious what you're supposed to do when you come to a menu like this. But yeah, like I said, we need a text here to actually like explain what is going on in that particular save file, maybe a date. But yeah, I like staying in Zig as much as possible as well. But of course, this stuff doesn't auto update or hot update, right? That is the problem with this. Now, technically, since this is in a DLL, I could have the game unload and reload the DLL and show it again. I don't do that currently, but I could. But the layout is actually not in Zig. The layout is in AngelScript, specifically for that reason. So if we go to means UI, we can go here and have a look at the campaign. Where's campaign? Campaign. There we go. Campaign menu view. So here, for example, if we enable that, we can see all the hitboxes for the different objects here. You can see that this thing is being hot reloaded here. If we add save slot stack vertical step, we can add more space here. And you can see it sort of updating after about a second, like this. It makes it kind of easier to lay out these things. Whoops, clicked the thing. And same thing goes for all of these. So like the video options thing is here. And you just have, I keep hitting something when I select the window again. So yeah, you can see like the name of the widget there, and then the bounds of it. Where was I? I was in campaign. Yeah, it's a little challenging, I should say, to make a UI that you can control with the gamepad like this, and also with the keyboard, and also with the mouse. So it's not the best, but it gets the job done. Coolio. Let's see. I missed some other question here. Yeah, I think I've probably covered most of the questions that we got today. So this was a pretty good stream. I think I'm gonna probably end it here. We've been going for over 3 hours. Starting to get kind of late here. I'm hoping to do a bit more of these. Maybe I maybe doing one more tomorrow, just because like I have a little bit of free time tomorrow. So depending on how my work goes in the morning, I might do another one tomorrow. So keep an eye on the channel if you want more of this. More of this stuff. And I don't know what I'm gonna be doing tomorrow. That's the surprise of the Madrigal game streams. You know, one day I might be doing math programming, and the next day I'm making sound effects or something. Probably not sound effects on stream, but like maybe 3D modeling. 3D modeling I've done actually quite a lot on stream. So might be something completely different, or then we'll just continue with the sandbox. Sandbox is kind of like my next thing on the list, though. So that might be a thing. I will stream open while playing Ark Raiders, I guess. Yeah, sure. Absolutely. If I can provide some pleasant background noise for your you know, gameplay sessions, or I don't know, doing the dishes, then by all means. Other things. If you haven't checked out Traction Point, I should start advertising this now. We actually have a Steam page for Traction Point. I think I put it in the description below, and I think I actually even did put it in the chat there in the beginning. But please note, you will need to take action to release your application. Yeah, you got this thing when you're making the game. So do check out this thing and add it to your wish list if it looks cool. It actually helps quite a lot, and I'm trying to sort of get in early on the whole marketing thing this time around. I'm also writing some blog posts on Traction Point and what you will sort of what you should be expecting here on the news hub. So if you want to read more, and there's even some like videos and things here explaining some of these things, do check that out. And you know, give me some thumbs up here as well if you want to sort of help kickstart this whole thing. Other than that, all the usual YouTube jazz, like, subscribe, maybe join the Discord if you want to play, or if you want to just hang out, talk about things. I guess that's it. Thanks to everyone who came to hang out today. Have an excellent continued weekend, and see you in the next video.